Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's show. This day will be kind of exciting because we're finally, after all this time, we're finally starting our unmanned missions. This has been a topic that I was just carefully avoiding. Mostly because we didn't really have the solar panels, because we only had those little ones, which contract the sun, and it's just an annoyance to build a network with them, because you constantly have to think about them rotating like the entire spacecraft just to face with those solar panels towards the sun. And because of that, it was really annoying. For that reason, I just kind of completely ignored the existence of unmanned missions, but not today. Tonight is going to be pretty much almost exclusively unmanned missions. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to start with a manned mission at the very beginning, but that's simply because I have to return the vessel from Mun, because it's just kind of left hanging it there, and we really need that back. But other than that, we will have pretty much, I think, pretty much all the missions should be completely unmanned. And with that, let's start. Now, like I was saying, we do have a spaceship landed on the surface of Mun, and we have to return that. Now, the reason I left it there is because I thought that it's just going to be useful to have it there to just kind of chill and everything. But it could provide us with some extra science, and I think it's finally time we actually go and get that science that we deserve. Nah, we have to return those guys. No, we really do. Unfortunately, we have to return the vessels, at least this one. So like I was saying, the goal for this one was to go ahead, plant a few flags and everything, do the EVA, and I was hoping to get the contracts for that. I mean, the exploration contract. I did not actually get them, but I think it's enough waiting, because I did some calculations and I actually found out that we will gain more by actually doing these missions now instead of waiting. So with that out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and plant our first flag. Make it a Mun base. We will have a Mun base, but we're playing with Kerbalism, so we do have limited research. The hell just happened? Oh, I get it. Okay. Apparently, the flag that I planted, because we're playing slippery Kerbal slopes here, the flag actually, the vehicle kind of slided into it and just pushed the flag away. I actually have no clue where it is now. Science? I don't know what that was. Doesn't really matter. So like I was saying, because we're playing in Kerbalism, we do have limited resources on our vessels, which means that we can't just place them forever like you can do in the default game. I mean, the stock one. So with that, we'll have to just kind of go ahead and return ourselves back. Now, we'll also go ahead and collect the Munstone. I just want to leave the experiments on the vessel so that our bill here will be slightly lighter, because he is pretty damn heavy, and with the Mun's kind of heavy surface, it's really hard to jet back here. And yeah, we do have this weird problem where the vehicle slides. Oh yeah, it just flew the flag somewhere there. Unfortunately, that just happens, but you know, we're playing slippery slopes here. Now, I went ahead and I scouted where the Munstones are, and I found this one right here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and fly there as if I just magically knew it was there. Now, the reason why I just didn't do that actually on the stream is because I'm playing with parallax, and that just adds a lot of these like rocks here and there, so it's really hard to find rocks that are actually collectible through the breaking grounds. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up that manstone. Alright, got that thing, and let's go back to our vessel. I'm just gonna jet back here. Now, theoretically, we could try and jet back our way, further, because we are, like, in this crater. We're currently, well, it doesn't really show here, oh, wait, look at that. It shows right here. Mun space low northwest crater. We could escape this crater. We could go somewhere there. The problem is that we don't really have enough EVA fuel. And there's a decent risk of just leaving the Kerbal stranded on the Mun. And again, with the stock game, you theoretically can return. It's just gonna take you a long time. Here, we only have like 2 hours of oxygen, and even more than that, we are heavily limited by our electric charge. We do have like, I think 45 minutes during the night of electric charge, so yeah, I don't want to venture too hard. The new private division in general, I actually don't really have an opinion on that, because I mean, until they're gonna actually like provide something specific, it's really hard to say. Well, I mean, there's nothing I possibly can say about that. I mean, they haven't provided much information. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and I think return these guys. Now here's the thing. Like I said, theoretically we could try to move here a little bit out of the crater, just land somewhere near and get a little bit more science from that. And while we technically do have the Delta V, I really want to keep this mission, this stream, primarily with unmanned missions, so we're just going to go ahead and get to orbit here and get back to Kerbin and start actually with unmanned missions. So with that out of the way, let me just quickly aim for orbit here. Should be somewhere there. Okay, let's start the engines here, gradually, carefully, and off we go to orbit. Let's switch to prograde, full throttle, and on we go. Okay, that looks good enough. Okay, let's get the landing legs. There's another trick that you can theoretically do, because we don't really care about how much of this spacecraft we're going to return. There's actually a theoretical possibility of just completely disassembling it, basically stripping down every little thing that we don't need, because we do have an engineer on board, and we could theoretically land at a different spot and then just throw away literally everything that we don't need. But like I said, this one's going to be primarily unmanned missions. And actually, you know what, we're in this really good position that I think we can just start burning prograde. And I think we'll escape Mun at just the right time to go to Kerbin without having to do another loop. Yeah, look at that. That looks good enough. Okay, let's just bring our periapsis here to 70-ish thousand. Yeah, okay, that looks good. I'm actually gonna go a bit lower. I'm gonna go for a rather aggressive descent here, because it doesn't really matter. Let me just make sure that I have completed all of the experiments with EVA science, because I'm not entirely sure I've done that near Mun. Yeah, I mean, you can return, like, you can basically strip this vessel to the crew capsule and maybe a few fuel tanks, just with the one engine. You can just, because these fuel tanks are also small fuel tanks, well, they're not small, they're 1.8 meter, but they're short ones, because we didn't have the big ones at the time of construction. We could actually theoretically just strip all of those. We could strip all of these side tanks, leave one engine, and that'll boost our Delta V from the current whatever it is. I think it's about 200 after, well, I mean, after we've already set a trajectory. But yeah, you can definitely go to like 1,000 meters per second of delta V. That's possible, but it's just not really required. It's just not what we need to do. Okay, let's time warp to the descent here. Let's do that quickly. Okay. Well, I mean, we have completed a bunch of milestones, and most importantly, we have completed a bunch of contracts. I'm just gonna time warp here to the descent. Oh, and actually, you know what? I've just realized that we haven't actually completed all of the material study in high orbit. No, not high orbit, I mean high stratosphere. We could theoretically do that. Yeah, we have some value left in flying high and space low. But I don't think... Yeah, let's not bother with that with this mission. Let's just go ahead and land the vessel here. Gonna come actually pretty close. No, not close to KC. Scratch that. Alright. On we go with our descent. I'm gonna stage the vehicle pretty much instantly here, because otherwise it'll burn down. Let's just burn the rest of our fuel here, just to reduce our delta V as much as possible. Transfer old data here, and stage it. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, and the re-entry begins. Oh, Jesus. Those tanks really scared me. Yeah, that's our lower stage being absolutely obliterated. Technically, it's the upper stage. Yeah, I think it's pretty much the last stage, technically. Doesn't matter. Okay, we will experience some pretty serious G-forces because we are taking a rather aggressive descent profile, but no one's actually even passed out, so that's a bonus. Okay, let's descend here. Do want to save the game here just in case something goes wrong with the time warp, because boy have I lost many a vessel to time warp with the parachutes. That's just inevitable. The lag is inevitable. It just constantly happens, and you constantly lose your crafts to that. I actually could have set the parachutes to deploy slightly later, but it's fine. Okay, now let's talk about our plans for like the rest of the stream, which is like the main part. With this intro of getting a little bit of science, we should be able to research two key technologies, which are small engines and fairings. Now, we need fairings for the obvious reason that I don't want to launch those tiny space probes with like a huge rocket, because we just have so much air friction, and the tiny engines will come in handy for like the satellite itself. Because I do want to have these small engines to correct the orbit slightly, just so that I can make sure that the orbits of all of these satellites will be synced up. And we will be launching them to high orbits. When I say high orbit, I mean like 6-7 megameters. That's somewhere halfway to MUN, something like that. And usually I construct the vehicles during the stream. Not this time. This time I have constructed the vehicle earlier because I was thinking a lot about what we should do next. So the vehicle is actually going to be pre-made for us, which is nice, I guess. But I will show it and describe how it's made, why I made the decision choices. Now the vehicle is going to be named the Bumblebee. The reason for that is because it just kind of looks like a bumblebee because of all these small, well, they're not actually really small, rechargeable batteries that we have here. They're kind of yellow-black style just kind of reminded me of a bumblebee, especially when you extend the solar panels, and they also kind of look like wings-ish. They look like wings to me. So it kind of resembled a bumblebee, that's why I decided to name it. So at the top here, we're gonna have a core, pretty much standard core with no unmanned experiments here. Large antenna, this one is going to be aimed towards Kerbin. It doesn't have a very wide angle. It has only about 12.5 degrees, which is why our satellites will be relatively high up. But the power of this antenna should be enough to make sure that pretty much anything that has even a remotely reasonable antenna should be able to communicate to the satellites from Kerbin. And it also has a lot of these high-gain antennas. These are low power, but like very narrow angle antennas to 10 degrees, which will be able to communicate to other Bumblebee satellites, because we have a contract to launch 4 satellites to just make a constellation around Kerbin, and we'll use 3 antennas to talk to the other Bumblebee satellites, and the other 3 will talk to the other constellation that we will have in place. And we'll actually have to build the vehicles for that, because I want to launch these bigger relays that will have these huge relay antennas. Let me just show how big they are. So it's going to be a separate spacecraft, and it's going to be in a really, really high orbit, and it'll have these huge antennas for interplanetary communication, so we can finally start launching probes to other planets, specifically Eve. Because that's next thing in our progression. And with that out of the way, I think we can just launch this vehicle. I will angle it a little bit, like this. The reason for that is just because I want to make the ascent profile slightly better. It just makes it easier to control. And yeah, so the lower stage here is like, we've got, well, it's technically a 3-stage vehicle. We've got the booster here for cheap ascent in atmosphere. Then we've got a large fuel tank with the bug fuel engine assembly. And we also have 2 of these, let me show it to you, Oscar C fuel tanks, and we have a small ant engine there at the bottom, which will be used for that fine correction, because we really need to have that fine control, because the more the error in setting our orbit will be, the faster the satellites will break the constellation, and at that point we'll have to kind of go and micromanage it to correct it, which is going to be annoying. And hopefully I will be able to set them accurately enough that I won't have to think about it for like a year or 2. Kerbal time, obviously. And or maybe like real time. Just basically set them forever, effectively. Let me just edit the fairing here a little bit, because I do want to make it slightly wider here to fit the antenna slightly better. Yeah, that looks slightly better. Okay, let me just also remove that orange section. Yeah, that looks good enough. All right, so let's go ahead and launch our Bumblebee. Now, the first Bumblebee is going to be pretty damn annoying to launch. And actually, let's set an index number to this thing. Actually, you know what? I gave it a little bit of thought, and I decided that I'm not going to set index numbers anymore. They were kind of fun to see how our vehicles are going to progress, but then I thought, like, hey, I just have the stream recordings, I can just look at that. There's no real reason to use those index numbers, and they're kind of a pain in the arse to manage. So, scratch that. It has a name. What more do you need? So let's go ahead and launch it. Oh, we actually haven't got all of our parts. We need to purchase the Airstream protective shell. I think we also need to purchase, what else? What else do we need? Oh, we need the decoupler, we need the ant engine. Yeah, there's like a bunch of stuff that I used. We haven't researched yet. But now we can, because we returned our Utilis from the Mun mission. Alright, what else do we need? Decoupler and rechargeable battery bank. Alright, let's buy all of that stuff. And hopefully this is gonna be a nice launch. So like I was saying, the first launch is going to be into a highly elliptical orbit. The reason for that is because I don't have a constellation right now, and as soon as Kerbin rotates, I will lose connection to the satellite. Because of that, the first satellite has to go into a high elliptical orbit so that I will have time to correct it. And also it'll act as a relay for subsequent launches. So with that out of the way, let's just make sure that our antenna here, the big antenna, is aimed at Kerbin. Can I please focus on it? Thank you very much. No, I can't. Okay, so our relay antenna is idle. Is idle? Oh, that's fine. It is activated, which is important, and it's aimed at mission control, which is even more important. All right. So let's go for a launch here. We'll be using MagJet because it just worked better for me. I actually found out what the problem was with first time in your life. That was weird. Okay, so anyway, I actually found out what the problem was with the SAS. So if you watch the previous streams, the problem that I had is that my rockets would constantly start wobbling, and I really couldn't understand what was going on. So the problem was actually remote tech, because it has its own controller. If I open this flight computer here, it has its own parameters. It has its own PID controller. And the problem is that that PID controller it's really bad. I just can't describe just how bad it is, because it's what's called an absolute PID controller. It doesn't like actually get the relative information. It has these proportional, integral, and derivative terms just basically as constants, but it doesn't like actually feed them through. Doesn't really matter. There's a bunch of math. The point is, it sucks. It sucks severely, especially at high speeds. It completely fails to solve any vibrations that we had. For this reason, I will be using Smart ASS, and previously I was kind of restricting myself from using it because I was like, well, we should probably use the normal SAS because, now I will give myself full control to use that because, well, I mean, I know that it's a remote tech issue, so I'm just gonna ignore those problems. And with that out of the way, let's finally launch the vehicle here. Now I'll obviously start the booster first, then release the clamps. The reason why I do that is because I just want to make sure that during the start of the engine, it will actually start, because there's like a 1% chance that it won't. And if that happens and I have already released the clamps, then it'll just fall down, break apart. Why would I do that? Obviously, the engine kind of wasted a little bit of thrust there, but it's like 10 meters per second or something like that. It doesn't really matter. We can waste that with no problem. This design actually has very wide margins for error. And with that out of the way, let's stage our first booster. Well, pretty much our last booster. Here we have the Pug liquid fuel engine. Notice that it's not an upgraded version. It doesn't have a lot of ignitions because, again, the point here is to just kind of shove ourselves to an elliptical orbit, and we'll basically continue burning with this engine most of the way there. And like I said, we'll have this ring of satellites around Kerbin in a high orbit, which should probably give us good connection pretty much everywhere. Okay, let's transition to prograde here. And on we go. Okay, even though we're really high, I'm still not gonna stage it for now, because the Bumblebee has extremely high drag without the Airstream protective shell, and it's actually better to keep it there pretty much all the way into orbit. Like, I found out that normally you'd release the fairing before you actually have escaped atmosphere at like 60 kilometers. You're usually like, that's good enough, because the weight of the fairing is more than what it saves in terms of drag. Not in this case. In this case, the drag is just so immense that it's just better to carry it all the way to space, basically to pure vacuum. Right, so now I'm just gonna decrease the throttle a little bit. Let's stage it. It pops like this nicely, and we will continue with our ascent. We'll actually have to burn pretty much all this time, because our thrust to weight ratio here is suboptimal at best. It's not a very high thrust to weight ratio, but using the POG will just allow us quite a significantly more delta V over higher thrust to weight ratio, so I thought it's good enough for what we need here. Although the burn time that we're going to be using is gonna cut it pretty close, so we'll use most of it. Luckily though, even if it fails, even if something goes really, really wrong, we still have the Ant engine, and that last stage 8 has a pretty decent delta V of 1200 meters per second, and most importantly, that one is fully upgraded with, I think it's like 140 ignitions and 23 minutes of burn time, so we should be able to make all of the corrections. Even if this engine explodes prematurely, it's not going to be that big of an issue. Alright, you know what, let's time warp here a little bit, and the general consensus here is to just reach as high of an orbit as we can. We will break signal here quite early, but that's not a very big issue. I'm just gonna continue burning for as long as I can, just to bring myself already into a high elliptical orbit. And then once I will get the connection back, I will correct it. All right, so we actually, we lost the connection 2 seconds before we burned the rest of our fuel on the POG here. And I mean, we're already in this elliptical orbit. There are like 2 ways you could do this. You could actually stage your launches, so you just launch one after the other. The problem with that is it's just kind of annoying to just spread them around the Kerbin into a nice constellation. So for that reason, I'm just gonna not bother too much and just time warp somewhere towards our apoapsis here. And as we go higher, we will obviously... Oh, Jesus, I forgot to extend the solar panels. God damn it. Alright, scratch that. We're going to Space Center. Okay, I'm actually gonna launch another satellite straight away and use that as a relay towards our first Bumblebee. Because, I forgot to open up the solar panels. Damn it. I hope we're gonna be able to research automated launches soon, because they kind of fixed that issue. As MacJab does have an option to automatically deploy all of the solar panels, all of the antennas, as soon as you reach orbit. Alright, let's fire this vehicle. This next one. Let's set it to surface. Set it to basically go straight up-ish. Actually, you know what? This time I'll add 2 degrees of pitch, because I don't want it to go too horizontal, because I actually want it to go higher. Actually, you know what? Let's act like 5 degrees. Because I want it to go higher so that it'll reach a higher orbit and we'll be able to transmit to the first Bumblebee. Kind of fluked there. I should have opened up the solar panels, but you know, it's always in retrospect that you solve these things. All right, let's stage it here, and right now I'm just gonna set it to 0 pitch because I don't want it to tumble over. And on we go. Unfortunately, going straight up like this, especially with a low thrust to weight ratio, is not very efficient. And you will notice that by the time we put our second Bumblebee into orbit, it'll actually have less total delta V, because it took a higher ascent profile. But it's good enough for what we're doing here. We still have like a lot of spare delta V, and I'm not gonna, as soon as I put them into a high orbit, I'm just not gonna touch them at all. Alright, let's actually go ahead and rename this vessel. I'm just gonna set an index number to this Bumblebee. Is gonna be Bumblebee number 2. That's just gonna make it slightly easier to manage which one is connected to which one. Otherwise, it's just gonna be Bumblebee is connected to Bumblebee, but not Bumblebee. Well, yeah, that's gonna be annoying. Right, you know what? Let's time warp here. Gonna release the fairing here. Nice, and burn the rest of our way. This time, as soon as I reach orbit, let's instantly pop the solar panels here. Just to not forget about that. And also let's deploy one of our antennas and aim it at our first Bumblebee and activate it. Alright, okay, that antenna is working. And as soon as we as soon as we achieve line of sight, we should get connection to that first Bumblebee, and we will be able to deploy antennas on that thing, hopefully. Hopefully that'll happen soon. I'm really hoping. Please. I really need that. Alright, so we got the connection. Let's go ahead. First Bumblebee. Auto antennas. Yeah, solar panels. Please deploy. Okay, so that has been deployed, and we can see electric charge is being generated. Okay, great. That is very reassuring. Alright, so now we just need to bring this beast the rest of its way into orbit. Let's switch to prograde here. And yeah, let's just continue burning for pretty much as long as we can. Not gonna go into high elliptical orbit this time because I want to kind of separate them a little bit. And it's just gonna be slightly easier to do later on. Alright, so I'm just gonna go into just an orbit. And okay, we got ourselves an orbit. That's great, that's fine. Alright, so like I said, this is gonna be the second Bumblebee. Let's actually switch to the first Bumblebee. Let's go to that, and we'll deploy the antenna aimed it at our second Bumblebee. And also, I just want to make sure that everything is correct with the solar panels and everything. You know what? Let's burn the rest of the stage. It's like 2 seconds of burn time, but just don't want it to mess here with the cool visuals of the spacecraft. Look at that. This is an absolutely gorgeous spacecraft, in my opinion. Let's get this antenna to aim at the second Bumblebee. Activate it. And also, let's rename this vessel to Bumblebee number 1. And with that out of the way, we can actually just go ahead and launch the third one. That is what I would normally say, except this time I would actually like to time warp here to apoapsis, because I do want to lift this one into high orbit already. It's just gonna be there, and it'll have a very nice connection all of the way into orbit. Okay. Let's time warp here a little bit. Okay. You can see we got our connection back, and in order to set our apoapsis, periapsis, I'm gonna set it to 6 megameters. And the way to do that very, very accurately is to use the maneuver planner from MechJap. So the way you use it is, first of all, we could change our inclination right now, and it's better to do it when you're in a lower orbit because it's just cheaper. But I'm not going to bother with that for now. I'm just going to set it to change our apoapsis. I'm going to set it to change it at our next apoapsis, so 15 minutes from now. And I'm going to set our new apoapsis. Like, I want to go to 6 megameters, so 6,000 kilometers. But I'm not going to set it to 6,000 kilometers just yet. I'm going to set it to like 5,000. and then I'll bump it up another 1,000 kilometers. It'll just make it ever so slightly more accurate. It's not a lot. And also what you can do is you can set the tolerance to like 100th of meter per second, lead time, whatever you want. You can set it like 10 seconds, 6 seconds, doesn't really matter too much. All right, so let's create our node and we'll press create and execute. And as you can see, it has automatically created the node to raise our apoapsis to 5 megameters. And on we go. And it'll automatically time warp, it'll automatically start the engines. All you have to do is stage the vehicle if you have to. And also, just keep an eye on it in general, in case the engines fail or something like that. Which is highly unlikely with the Ant engine because it's rated for like hundreds of ignitions. Well, it's not hundreds, it's more like just 800, but still, quite a lot of ignitions. Now, you can also see that the thrust-to-weight ratio of this craft is kind of abysmal. It's like 0.2. But it's good enough, and it doesn't really matter because we're already in this elliptical orbit, so we can just allow ourselves to make this maneuver slightly less efficient than it could be. That's just not going to be too big of a concern for us. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and launch the 2 other bumblebees. The reason for that is we already have this bumblebee, the first bumblebee, in high orbit, and it'll be able to relay the connection from Kerbal Space Center to the other ones as they launch, so we can take a more shallow ascent profile. Because the problem with the shallow ascent profile is if you don't have a relay network set up, as soon as you launch the satellite, it'll break the connection pretty much instantaneously if you go too low, and that's really, really a problem. But right now we will have this one satellite in high orbit, which will be able to relay signals, so we'll have a lot more coverage. And we can take a shallower ascent profile, which normally gives you slightly more total delta V savings. In this case, it's just not going to matter because the vehicles are slightly overpowered for what they're doing. They will have like 500 meters per second of spare delta V just lying there by the end of the mission. But still good practice to do that, even if you don't strictly need it. And as you can see, it'll automatically finish the maneuver, and as you can see, the accuracy is really, really good, especially since I was time warping ×4 there, but it's still not perfect. It's like 6 meters off. The next burn that we're going to be doing will raise it to actually 6 megameters, so we'll do just a shorter burn, and then the accuracy will be like within 1 meter, which is really, really great, because it means that our constellation that we will construct, it'll just last for a very long time because they tend to degrade over time. You can use cheats to set the orbits precisely, but since we do have MagJab and we do have Maneuver Planner, we just don't need that, so why cheat when you don't have to? And with that out of the way, let's go launch the other 2. That feeling when I'm the only viewer, yeah, I'm feeling that feeling as well, but I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you. But even though it's a Friday stream, I knew that Friday stream was not going to get a lot of viewers, because most of my viewers are from US and it's daytime right now. It's like Friday evening for me, but it's not for them. They're still at work, so, or in school. So yeah, I knew this was going to happen, but it's fine. They can watch the recording if they really want to. By the way, if you haven't joined Discord, please do. Because, yeah, if you do it right now, you have the chance to join Discord before I reach 1,000 subscribers. And that'll give you a special role, which will later give you free perks, which would otherwise be behind a paywall. Which is definitely nice to have. Alright, let's go ahead, launch the other vehicle. Not gonna pop the antenna for now. Okay, let's just start the engine, detach the stability enhancers, and off we go. Set it to surface, set all of the rotations and everything, and off we go. This launch I'm not gonna comment too much because it's kind of repetitive when you have to launch like a lot of these missions. They're kind of boring in the sense that you need to launch pretty much the same spacecraft over and over and over again, but it's just the reality of these automated launches. Okay, our stage burned up here. Let me stage it. I was just looking at the vertical stream, which is doing absolutely abysmal today for no apparent reason. Which could actually be the reason why there's so little people on the mainstream. But it is what it is. You know, sometimes you have a good stream, sometimes you have a bad stream, it depends. Well, we will definitely have slightly better topics that could potentially bring slightly more people into the mix later, but for now it's fine. Alright, let's time burn here, time warp quite aggressively because I really want to get through these constellation settings as fast as possible because it is kind of boring. And I give to you sunrise in orbit, and it's over. Yeah, these sunrises in orbit, they last for like seconds, actually seconds. When you have this like red sun, it's like really for a very short time. Okay, now like I was saying, because our Bumblebee here, it's aimed at the KSC, but because it has a relatively wide-ish antenna, it'll be able to cover not only the KSC, but also some of the orbits. I will actually raise its orbit slightly higher later, specifically because I wanted to reach pretty much the entire low Kerbin orbit. And what that will do is it'll allow any spacecraft that has at least some antenna to maintain the connection. Actually, you know what? Let's open the antenna here, aimed it at the second Bumblebee. One of them at Bumblebee number 2, one of them at Bumblebee number 1. Activate them. Just start activating antennas, solar panels while we are burning here. Okay, alright. And I think we're already in orbit. Yeah, we are already in orbit, but I'm just gonna continue burning here. I think I'll just burn through the entire stage here, because why not? We can afford ourselves. I actually regret right now that I haven't put a single omnidirectional antenna, so it's only targeted antennas on these relay satellites, which is suboptimal, but won't matter in the long run. This is fine. Alright, and let's just bring our apoapsis to somewhere around 5 megameters. It doesn't really matter too much where we put it, just somewhere there-ish. I'm actually just gonna wait till I burn this stage off. I'm just gonna stage it, and then we'll go launch the other satellite. The third, or actually the fourth Bumblebee. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of them. We could launch more than 4, but we just have a contract specifically for 4, and that's the reason why I'm launching 4 of them. That's also the reason why they have 6 antennas. Short-range antennas. Well, they're not short-range antennas. I mean, just not the big fat one, because each of them will connect to 3 other Bumblebees and 3 satellites in a polar orbit, which will be our deep space satellites. Those ones are going to provide connection over the North Poles, which is kind of cool, and they will also provide connection for deep space network. I mean, the actual deep space network, not the child's deep space network, which we're building right now. I mean, interplanetary communication. One day we'll have to do interstellar communication. That's going to be a problem. Because I think interstellar communication, when we will travel to the black hole, it's going to be kind of complicated to send signals back. I think we'll have to use like drones, which just pack a lot of data and just send it physically there, because we simply won't have strong enough antennas to do that. And the signal delay is going to be awful. I've actually checked the signal delay to Eve is somewhere around 1 to 2 minutes. Worst case scenario can go as high as 3, I think. But that's like tops. Which is not a lot, but it's definitely not real time. So you have to plan maneuvers. It's just that you can plan one maneuver and then another one and then another one. You don't have to plan like 10 maneuvers and just sit there and wait till they all execute, praying in the process that you have set it up correctly. It's not like that bad. And it could be. It could be that bad. That's definitely possible. Alright, so we are going to be exiting the atmosphere pretty soon here, so we can start setting up all of our solar panels and whatnot. Just gonna wait till we actually exit it for safety reasons. And on we go, setting all of the solar panels. Alright, so like I said, we're gonna activate one to each of the bumblebees. Bumblebee number 2, and this one will be aimed at Bumblebee number 3, which I haven't actually set up with the proper name. Let's do the name for this one while we wait till it burns. Is there any tech tree editor for KSP? Look, I don't think that there's like an editor, but you can edit the config files yourself. I think that's possible. I think the mod for community tech tree, it actually has a config file, so you can just go ahead and edit it there. The problem is that mods that you will add, you'll have to go and edit every single mod to be compatible with your new tech tree. Because the community tech tree, which is used for the majority of mods, it's just a common dependency. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. Well, most people love it. But everyone knows it, and it's compatible with like 99.9% of mods. That's not true for your custom tech tree, so you'll just have to also edit other mods, which is somewhat annoying. But it is possible. Just definitely would not recommend it, because it's kind of annoying. But if you have a limited number of mods, that's definitely possible. It's just that you, as a maintainer of this new tech tree, you will be responsible for making sure all of the other mods are compatible. I think it's like that. But maybe there is. I'm not sure. It's just that, yeah, you still will need to set all of the other mods to use your tree specifically and just to redistribute everything across that tree. Non-Kerbal start mod. You mean like, I'm not sure if I knew that mod specifically, but there are a bunch of mods that force you to do unmanned missions first. I think that's what you mean. Alright, so we have launched a bunch of our satellites here. Let's actually go ahead, switch to our third Bumblebee, and just make sure that all of the antennas are pointed at all of the satellites, all of the names are correct. Just make sure that, and then we'll go ahead and set all of the orbits. Alright, I'm gonna activate this antenna, aim it at Bumblebee 4. Oh no! Oh no, we don't have a connection for some unknown reason. I mean, these antennas are aimed at Bumblebee 1. Oh, because I know what's going on. Because this one doesn't have the antenna set to Bumblebee 3. God damn it. It's kind of annoying. We have to set it to that one and then to the other one. Yeah, like I said, there's... that's why I should have placed some omnidirectional antennas. They would have kind of solved this issue somewhat. All right, let's set it to Bumblebee 4. Okay, so this one is aimed Bumblebee 2, 3, and... No, I want this one to be Bumblebee 3. Thank you very much. All right, so we should have all of these satellites taken care of from this one. Switch to our third. Let's rename it. Set the antennas for that. Also, I think we have to set the antennas for the second one. Haven't done that. God damn it. I wish there was some way to automate this because it's kind of annoying. Okay, so this one is 1, 2, and this one should be 4th satellite. And let's also give the index of 3 to this one. All right. I actually was hoping that this stream is going to be like super exciting because we're setting up our relay network, but it's actually turning out extremely boring because it's just me switching between all of the vessels, setting up the network. But it is going to be a very nice network, and if you want to learn how to set up a network, this stream is definitely for you. All right, let's set this one to 3rd, let's set this one to 4th, and this should be able to give us a very, very rigid connection everywhere. When I play KSP, some said that stream version is not compatible with Xbox controller. Yeah, I guess it is. Haven't tried that myself, but I guess it is, yeah. Alright, you know what? Let's start time warping here a little bit. I'm not gonna time warp too hard, but I do want to start time warping a little bit. Just to waste slightly less time. Okay, let's switch to Bumblebee 4 here, and we'll raise the apoapsis of that one. Alright, let's aim at progrades. I'm just gonna burn here and just raise our apoapsis really, really high. Not any specific number, somewhere along the lines of like... I'm not actually sure which altitude I should eventually go for. I think 6 megameters is the most I can do. Otherwise, there's a chance that they're going to start interfering with MUN. For that reason, I'm going to set it to 6 megameters. I actually prefer to be slightly higher than that, but I think there's just going to be a chance that they will... if I set them higher, that they will interfere with MUN, which is going to be absolutely devastating. We could theoretically go higher than MUN. That's definitely an option. But it's also kind of a nuclear option, sort of. It's just way too aggressive, I think. Okay, let's set the apoapsis here to 5-ish kilometers for this one. And let's switch to Bumblebee 2, and we'll set the apoapsis for that. And we'll just switch here and there, setting up their orbits, trying to line them up, so that they should be creating sort of a square-ish. It's not going to be a square, but it's going to be pretty close. Okay, I'm actually going to use the MagChep here. Set our next apoapsis at periapsis, create and execute, and we'll do that automatically for me. And because we already have this, like, sort of a network-ish, we can already somewhat reliably start making these maneuvers. We already have a pretty good connection. By the way, if you're wondering what the colors are, I've set it that red is omnidirectional, blue is like proper directional antennas, and green is just the current connection. Sticks for movement controllers are not registered by game, and it can be used only for emergency and other groups of action. Oh yeah, that's really annoying. But I mean, I'm just so used to MagChap and all of these other instruments that I don't think I'd actually benefit from like a joystick. I knew I'd benefit from like an actual aircraft controller. That's gonna be interesting, but like joystick, another still can be pretty good, but like, yeah, mouse and keyboard is good enough for me. Alright, let's stage it here. Because like I said, I just, I'm so used to MagChap. I use the aircraft autopilot, descent autopilot. I don't use descent autopilot usually, but during descent you're basically put it to retrograde and that's it, sort of. Alright, I present to you Sunset in Orbit, and it's over. Damn it. I always kind of miss that. Alright, let's continue with setting our apoapsis for this one. Like I said, we're just gonna roughly set them to different corners. We will obviously be able to correct later. We do have tons of delta V. We definitely do have good enough accuracy. And as you can see, right now our signal is being relayed to Bumblebee 1, to Bumblebee 3, to Bumblebee 4, and back to Bumblebee 2. Which is kind of interesting that right now our signal is being relayed pretty much around the entire Kerbin, almost. Alright, let's switch to Bumblebee 3 and create the maneuver for that one. Just absolutely insane gameplay. Please start asking more questions in chat, because like this is getting super boring as it is. Alright, let's set the apoapsis for this one to 5,500. At next apoapsis, create and execute. It'll do that completely automatically. Luckily, the maneuver planner is an absolute soul saver here, because it's just going to be so annoying to set all of these maneuvers by hand. It's just very nice that I can use a completely automated system for that. Well, it doesn't launch the satellites by itself, but like it comes pretty damn close. There is no more electric charge on Bumblebee 4. Did I forget to set, or is that just a bug? Which one is Bumblebee 4? Do we actually not have? Yeah, I think that was just a time warp bug. No, we do have electric there. Oh, it just was in the shadow, and because it was in this high elliptical orbit, it was just in the shadow longer than it was like normally supposed to during its standard operation, which resulted in it burning through all of its electricity. They do have a bunch of batteries, but I guess all of these, lots of these antennas, they kind of ruin it. All right, let's, by the way, look at our angle here. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that is, that's way too many angles. God damn it. I was just hoping to see how high do we need to go to just point ourselves towards mission control and still have full connection. Unfortunately, can't see it right now because we have this like absolute mess here. Because we're using so many directional antennas. Oh, by the way, I wasn't time warping. Actually, you know what? I'll go take a piss. Because I have forgotten to do that before the stream. I'll be right back. And look at that, I'm back just in time for more boring maneuvers. Alright, let's set the maneuver for Bumblebee 1. I think, oh, damn it. Let's set target, switch to. I don't know why I look, because I just... Look, I do have... Oh, I almost have the degree in computer science, and I simply try to use all of these instruments like Maneuver Planner, and I learned from that. I don't actually know how to do all of this stuff by myself. I just use these automated controllers. Alright, let's set our apoapsis, 6,000 kilometers. I think we'll go for the final 6,000 here. I think it'll be accurate enough. Okay, let's create and execute. Okay. And it does all of that completely automatically, which is definitely very, very nice. Actually, could you actually go right now and look what is the capture sphere of Mun? I'd like to know that. Dude, make less than 5,000 stages for orbit is insane for me. Why? It's actually usually the opposite. Usually it's just a lot easier to just have this one huge stage. I mean, 5,000 is kind of hard for me. I'd actually struggle with that, I think. Actually, I'm kind of curious how accurate it'll set the apoapsis here. Hopefully pretty damn accurate. Look at that. It set it to within 1 meter. Like I said, it can set them pretty damn accurately. Okay, you know what? Let's just start doing the rest of these maneuvers here. Let's go set Bumblebee 3. I'm actually doing a video on SSTOs right now, and it's actually turning out really funny because, I mean, technically, single stage to orbit just means that you have one stage and just gets to orbit. That's the literal definition. But it comes with a few weird side effects. For example, technically, the Apollo Ascent module is an SSTO. Because it got from Mun's surface into orbit within a single stage. Would you look at that? Obviously, that's not what people think about when they say SSTOs. But I mean, it technically is, and it got me into quite a lot of thinking about like how this really affects all of the definitions that we have. So it's turning out a pretty interesting video right now. Unfortunately, we do have these Bumblebee 4 satellite here is constantly losing electricity here, which is really annoying. Actually, I wanted to do Bumblebee 4 next one to set its apoapsis, but I don't think it's going to be beneficial to do it on this specific loop, because there's a decent chance that... Well, I mean, it'll line up almost perfectly with Bumblebee 1, which is, like, not really what I'm striving for. Okay, alright. Also, we're about to lose connection to Bumblebee 2. Yeah, you know what? Let's set Bumblebee 2 here. Or, you know what? Let's set Bumblebee 4 to just not that of an elliptical orbit. I couldn't find the month capture sphere nowhere. I mean, yeah. I honestly don't know where to look for that as well. So like, it's just okay. New app. Oh Jesus. I'm sorry. Okay, let's set it to like 4,000 for now. All right, we can't. What's our app perhaps is here? Oh, it's already like 5,000. Okay, we can set the periapsis then to I think 4,000 meters is good enough. Create and execute. Okay, looks good enough. Oh, we lost control. Oh yeah, we probably won't have the connection when we are going to be doing the maneuver. Yeah, we don't have the connection here. Oh god damn it. So annoying. So annoying. Yeah, we won't be able to do this one. Because it just so happens that all of the satellites are on the other side. Which is annoying. I mean, we can create and execute the maneuver next time, I guess. Damn it. I mean, no, there definitely is that information somewhere in line. You can actually probably look to, like, config files or something like that. I mean, you could probably find it. It's just that, I mean, 6-7 kilometers is already good enough. I mean, the angle that we have right now, if we can actually understand which one it is, yeah, I think it's this one. This angle, it's already high enough that it almost covers everything. I think we can actually test it right now. So we can set it not to mission control, but to Kerbin. And yeah, it like almost, well, it definitely covers all of the ground. It almost covers low orbit. Okay, but we will be technically slightly higher, so it's gonna be fine. Probably I'll have to set it to like 7 megameters. But I'll just check. I can just do it between the streams or something like that. Dude, second page of Google is almost deep web. Yeah. You have no clue how many times I was like on 50th Google page looking for stuff. Yeah, when you really have to find something, you go to terrible extents. I mean, it was mostly some weird programming thingamajig that I had to find. Actually, you know what? I think we could actually set this one to... Oh, it's already completed. You know what? Fine. Let's go to Bumblebee 2, set that one up. Yeah. So the way you have to set this up is you basically do a bunch of these launches. Every single launch you're going to set this up. You could theoretically just launch one, get it into perfect orbit, then time the second launch so that you basically launch perfectly where you need to go. But for that, you actually need to think about orbits, I mean, orbit timings, and it's just such a pain to do. It's definitely possible, and I have done that once, but it's definitely not something that I'm gonna be doing on stream. Just out of curiosity, what is that weird mod you're talking about? Just going to such extent to find a mod, that's scary. Okay, let's remove the jibber jabber here. Just leave the primary connections. Okay, let's time warp here. Although I don't want to time warp too hard at the very end because I want to set it relatively accurately, the apoapsis. You can actually slow time down if you like really need that ultra high accuracy. You can actually slow time down, but I don't know. Saw it in some random GIF on Discord. Oh, I mean, to be fair, there are actually just completely custom closed mods. So like that could be one of those. There are actually mods that you just can't buy or find or download anywhere. There's just a guy made for himself or something like that. Just not available to general public. Look at that, within 7 meters. Like I said, the more you do in one burn, the less accurate it is. But since we're probably gonna go to 7 megameters anyway, it's probably not gonna matter too much. All right, let's set our Bumblebee 1 here. And here's a little bit of advice. The easy way to set this up is that you actually have like one satellite. And, oh my god, let's actually rotate this one like this. So we can charge our batteries. Oh, we're already charged, doesn't matter. Anyway, so you could do this is you set a perfect orbit for one satellite, and then you just have the other satellites in a slightly lower orbit. And you just basically time warp until you've set them to a specific degree that you want. And then you set the orbit for the second satellite, then you switch to the third one, and you do that one. And while that in total will save a lot of time, it'll save your time at the expense of like in-game time. But because I slightly care about in-game time, we do have that mission around one. So I don't want to use it too hard. Okay, you know what? Oh, we actually do have to wait quite a bit of time before we get to that periapsis there. We could probably set Bumblebee 3, actually. I think it's near apoapsis right now. What do you struggle with MagChap? I mean, it sounds pretty simple. Maybe I'm a little bit too nerdy, but it really doesn't sound too complicated for me. So, okay, I'm gonna have to do the annoying thing when I set periapsis here instead of apoapsis. All right. Everything. I mean, I'm doing one video on SSTOs, and the next one after that should be how to use the Ascent autopilot in MagChap. So you'll have a video for at least that one, that specific functionality. And I mean, Ascent autopilot is super simple. Like, I'm not gonna go too deep into how to set it up. I'm just gonna do a very basic overview of the general functionality, but that should hopefully make it so that basically anyone can understand it. And it's not gonna be the most efficient launch. It's definitely not gonna be the most accurate launch, but it's definitely gonna be like good enough. Okay, and as you can see, unfortunately, it's not super accurate here. I do have a little bit of error, but it is what it is. When I was actually testing this, I was able to set the orbits slightly more accurately, but I mean, good enough. Alright, you know what, let's change our apoapsis to 5,000 kilometers, 6,000 kilometers at next apoapsis. Create and execute. Okay, we'll just have to time warp. They're actually higher than Chaos, I guess, stationary orbit. That's what it's called. I mean, it's geostationary orbit, but for Kerbin. So it actually takes longer than 1 day to make a full rotation. Oh my god, that's really annoying. Bumblebee 4 is pretty much exactly where Bumblebee 2 is, which is annoying, but okay. Finally, the right stream. YouTube made it a maze. I mean, there's 2 streams. I've got the main stream and the vertical stream. Alright, nobody saw that. Gonna have to cut that out. I genuinely didn't want to do that. Alright, gonna have to go and edit the recording. I'll paste it as a fans only moment. Alright, yeah. Well, look at that. Viewer interactions make for funnier streams, so do that more. Yeah. So anyway, I don't really know what specifically you're talking about. Oh, look at that! Precisely 6 megameters. Such much accuracy. Okay, let's set Bumblebee 2 here. Okay, what else do we need to set? I mean, we've got Bumblebee, which one? This one, I think. Who doesn't have the proper orbit? I see one orbit that's like way off, and I can't understand which one it is. I think it's Bumblebee 1. Okay. Yeah, it's this one. Oh, we're actually perfectly at apoapsis here. You know what? Let's do a manual maneuver here. I'm just gonna... Oh, actually, I do want to get slightly behind Bumblebee 3 here. So just time warp here. Let's set our apoapsis to, again, 6 megameters. Hit next apoapsis, create and execute. Oh my god, don't be such annoyings. Okay, set our periapsis at next apoapsis to 6,000. I mean, why can't you do a maneuver to set the other node to whatever I say it is right now? When I'm gonna be at apoapsis or periapsis. That would have been a cool functionality. Okay, as you can see, I've accidentally kind of grouped them together. Clumped them. Actually, you know what? Let's scratch this maneuver here. This is really annoying because I want to spread them out a little bit, but they don't be spreading out. Why won't they spread out? Okay, I think Bumblebee 1 will be able to do the maneuver at next rotation. Set that one up. Well, like I said, we'll have to time warp here quite aggressively to set everything up. Definitely not very efficient, but in terms of generally time, because this mission's taking 9 in-game days. But I just want to quickly set it up and just not bother too much. I mean, luckily we're not setting high orbit right now. Satellites. Those are super annoying, because in that case you actually have to time your launches. And if you don't, well, you're gonna be in a world of pain to set everything up. If you want a nice, cool network. But in my case, I'm just not gonna bother, because I'm setting up such a nice network only because that's kind of required by the contract that I have. Indirectly, but it is. Which is a little annoying. Okay, let's time warp even further here. Okay, so... let's time warp here. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of all clumped up together. Okay, you know what? Let's switch to Bumblebee 4 and set that thing to retro burn. Or actually, set it to a higher orbit so it will kind of get behind the other ones. Yeah, let's just set it to prograde, just kind of burn slightly more aggressively to a higher orbit. Just so that it'll kind of lag behind the rest. Okay. Something like that. Okay, let's do one rotation here. And it should get nicely behind the rest. Hopefully not too behind. Yeah, look at that. It basically set itself nicely behind everyone. Which is really, really cool. Okay, let's set our apoapsis to 6000. At next periapsis, create and execute. Oh my god, why use such an annoyance? Okay, change our periapsis to that. Okay, alright. Don't be such an annoyance. Okay. It's looking good enough. It's like, it's not perfect in how they're spaced, but I honestly can't be bothered too much. I mean, we could later just take individual satellites and kind of line them up slightly more accurately. Or we could just not bother, because, I mean, we can always just launch another Bumblebee specifically to fill up a space if we, like, really want to. But I think for the majority of cases, this is going to be perfectly fine. You know what? I think I'll just, between the streams, I'll go ahead and just line them up slightly. And also raise them to 7 megameters, if that is possible within, without them interfering with one, basically. Right, so I think last one that we have to set up is Bumblebee 2. We're just gonna have to line that one up and should be good to go. And we'll complete the contract, which is like the primary thing. And the network is gonna be slightly ugly. Not perfect, but good enough. Definitely good enough for me. Yeah, we won't have like a lot of coverage if KC is around here. I'm actually starting to think that we should have went slightly more aggressive with Bumblebee 4. Yeah, maybe we should do that. Because these three are lined up somewhat okay-ish. They're not perfect, but it's like not too bad. Actually, we could use Bumblebee 1. We could set it to a lower orbit. And maybe Bumblebee 3 as well. Because I'd like to move both of them kind of like ahead-ish a little bit. Or we could just not bother because we technically will complete the contract within 2 days. But you know what? I really don't like that we have so little coverage. They're way too clumped together to one side. You know what? Let's keep at least Bumblebee 1 slightly forward. At least that one. Just to set it slightly nicer. Yeah, looking for sprites or textures or something like that can also take you to like pretty far within Google. Okay, let's burn here, set our periapsis to I think 5 megameters-ish. And that should kind of move us ahead in terms of like rotation. Alright, let's time warp here a little bit, just see how much ahead are we going to be. And look at that. Yeah, that's looking a lot nicer. Okay, let's set our periapsis to 6,000 kilometers, and next apoapsis create and execute. Great, thank you very much. And like you can see, that's the way you can correct. If you go higher, the spacecraft will lag behind the rest, so it'll move kind of like counter to the general rotation, like relative to the group, obviously. And if you set a lower orbit, it'll slip forward. That's the way you can control the swarm, if you will. To set it slightly forward, slightly backwards, and basically set it whichever you want. And that's also the reason why I have so much spare delta V in the design of these bumblebees, because you just want to have that ability to not bother at all and just like be able to move the orbits at will, correct them, change them. If I right now, like theoretically, I could like make a maneuver to set the orbit like higher than 1. Like if I really wanted to, just let me demonstrate it here. I could like use 100 meters of delta V, like 150, and maybe then another 100. So basically like 300 meters per second, and I could go higher than 1. Slightly more than that, and I could go like to min-miss basically, which just, it allows me to change the swarm the way I want to do it, which is really, really nice. All right. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. All right. So we need to do this, quote, shakeout testing, but I mean, we don't have to look at it. It's already gonna be completed without us. Because, like I said, the accuracies of these satellites are pretty accurate. Alright, let's go to Space Center, and let's finally go launch some polar satellites. Now I'm gonna launch 2 satellites right now, both of which are going to be a research satellite, both of them, and they will be carrying a bunch of unmanned experiments that you have to do over a specific region. So you have to do these experiments over different biomes, and that will give you science. And these experiments just take a lot of time, because you kind of have to fly through every single biome, which takes just ages. And for that reason, I just want to set them up right now. We will launch 1 to Kerbin, 1 around Kerbin, 1 around Mun, 1 around Minmus, just a bunch of these satellites. And then we will have to do another series of those for high orbit. The one for high orbit, I'll probably also have come with magnetar boom. Actually, you know what? I don't think magnetometer boom is great for a polar orbit. I think equatorial orbit is better for it. I guess we'll just do polar orbit in that case. Doesn't matter too much. Alright, let's get to launch those satellites. It'll take literally weeks for those experiments to complete, because they just take a lot of time. And for that reason, let's design these orbiters. You can start thinking of the name, because the name's going to be a problem. So I'm going to set the unmanned experiments, and I'm going to set it to, quote, might. This one is like space low over different biomes. Now, I'll also need a bunch of antennas. I don't need very powerful antennas right now. I just need something good enough. But I do need a relatively high... Actually, no. I don't think I need a very high connection speed, because this experiment, even though it does produce a bunch of data, like 3 megabytes, which is a decent amount, we can just have a lot of capacity so we can buffer all of those experiments, and then we can just slowly send them over, even if the connection speed is not very high. So for that reason, let's just put a bunch of omnidirectional antennas here and just not bother with it too much. I'm just gonna put 2 of them like that. Actually, you know what? We will have this upper stage pretty similar to the Bumblebee design. I'll have this fuel tank here. I'll have the anti-liquid engine. I don't really need a lot of electric storage because we don't have tons of batteries. So I'll just use 2 of these big batteries here and also 2 solar panels. Now let's put non-foldable ones because why not? That's why. Yeah, let's put. Damn it! I'm trying to kind of think of a nice design here. I just want to be it kind of be interesting. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And we can have 2 solar panels around here, and we can have 2 antennas here. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, all right. Let's finish. Oh, all right. Well, that's a cool name. I really like it. But can you think of something that has like polar connected to it? Because I want to convey the meaning that these are going to be like specifically polar satellites. I know that the Bumblebee is just a name that doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't say that they're like relay satellites or anything. But I just kind of liked that they looked like bumblebees. That's why I did it. But this one, yeah, we could go for like a slightly more intricate design. All right, so just start thinking. I'll just build the rest of the spacecraft while you do so. All right, let's shove it a coupler there. What's our delta V for the upper stage? Oh my god, it's 1400 meters per second, which is definitely higher than we need to. Actually, here's the thing. We do have the other experiment that we still have to do. Actually, you know what? We have to do this. We have to do the MITE experiment in low orbit biomes, yes, but also we do need high orbit for it. So I do want to leave some fuel just so that once it has finished all of its rotations, I'll just put it temporarily into higher orbit just to collect that information during one pass, and then I'll just burn it up in the atmosphere, something like that. Sad, but efficient. Okay, let's put it like this. Unfortunately, we'll have to go slightly wide because the antennas here are pretty wide. Okay, that's looking. Why can't I place it? Oh, I can. It's just annoying for no reason. Okay, let's do like this. Is that good? Will that work? Okay. Let's rotate it like this. All right, that's looking pretty good. I don't like that these antennas somewhat peak from the sides. I know what. Let's just kind of. We could just punch 4 of these. And just not bother too much. Or we could actually. Nah, you know what? Let's leave 2. That's fine. I just don't want it to take up so much space. And you know what? These don't cost a lot. I'm just thinking of putting like another long-range antenna here just in case. Something low power, but slightly longer range. Actually, nah. You know what? This is fine. The connection here is definitely. It should be okay. All right. So with that out of the way, let's build the rest here. I mean, we're not gonna need a lot, except that I want this design to be like one is going to go high, one is going to go low, and I want to launch pretty much the same satellites. The only difference will be the actual experiments on them. Otherwise, they're going to be pretty much equivalent to each other. I will be using a higher thrust-to-weight ratio here. Higher thrust-to-weight ratio engine, because I just want to have slightly more power. And let's also punch the lower stage here. Actually, you know what? Since I really want... I don't care, like, about setting the orbit precisely, but, like I just love to have slightly better thrust-to-weight ratios here, so I'm just gonna put the slightly more powerful engine here. Not because I, like, really need to, but because I just want to. Okay, let's also edge the stagings here. Can you please place the staging when I ask you to do so? Thank you. Alright, let's also place a fat booster here. Just one of these. Let's add some winglets to it. I think 3 is actually perfect. You know what? Let's add 4. Actually, you know what? That's like 20. I think these... They're kind of like 20% of our final price. So no, I'll use the smaller ones because they're a lot cheaper, because I just don't want it to cost so much. Oh, and actually I will rotate it because we are going polar. Also, let's add the structural elements here. 2 of these. I'll set them to autostrut, well, not autostrut, I'll set them to deploy instantly after launch. The reason for that is because I just could not be bothered too much, because this one is not angled. So even if the booster won't start, it's just gonna fall like literally half a meter and nothing's gonna happen. And I just want to get it into orbit slightly quicker. Alright, with the total delta V in vacuum of 5,000 meters, this is definitely more than we need, so let's find the name. Polar Bear, still in finish. Okay, I'm just gonna take my time here to just kind of retype that name. Okay, this is completely unpronounceable for me. So I'm just gonna set it to like, Polar Explore 1. I'm just gonna do like that because like this is completely unpronounceable for me. I'm gonna say Polar Explorer 1, because like I said, this is just completely unpronounceable. I am sorry, but I'm just not even going to try. So like I said, this one's going to be low orbit, the other one's going to be high orbit. Okay, let's launch 2 of these bad boys, and they will give us a bunch of science, which is definitely very nice to have. I love science. Damn it. I'm near 1,000 views on my last video. It's like pretty damn solid. Because like in the beginning, it like had 0 views and I was like, what the hell is going on? Alright, let's launch it here. We should still maintain... Oh, we don't actually have a connection. I either can't see it or we... Oh no, we do have a connection to Bumblebee, which is great. All right, let's go for launch here. Let's instantly put ourselves into a little bit of a polar-ish orbit. Fun fact, there are like two ways we can do this. We can go in like perfect polar orbit, or we could actually do a slightly offset polar orbit. And it will be somewhat beneficial to take a slightly offset polar orbit because, I mean, the poles are kind of big, and taking a slightly more equatorial orbit will just give us more time to pass around different destinations, which is nice. But I'm not gonna bother too much. Okay. Right now I'm just gonna burn through the first stage. I'm not gonna stage it just yet. The reason for that is because, I mean, our apoapse is already like 60 kilometers-ish. And another reason is because I don't think this is a very stable spacecraft, so I want to leave the stabilizers here for just a little longer. Okay, let's stage it now. I think now it's the time. Okay, and off we go. Oh, wait, we do have thrust control. We do have thrust vector because we have the Terrier engine. Damn it, I completely forgot about that. Okay. I'm guessing you're Finnish. Like, completely wild guess. Like, absolutely out of nowhere. Okay. You know what, let's time warp here a little bit. Because we do have a very good thrust to weight ratio. Jesus Christ. 2.08. Wrong. Well, I mean, I think you can understand why I made such a decision. Like, you can probably tell, but like, do tell where you're from. Just accidentally downloaded Duolingo. Okay. I guess it happens. Alright, let's just keep burning. I'm trying to correct ourselves into a slightly more polar orbit than we already are. Okay, let's set ourselves to this. I'm actually, yeah, let's start using Smart ASS because it doesn't wobble. Because, like, see, if I use the normal SAS, it just starts to wobble a little bit. Look at that. It started wobbling, and the wobble doesn't stop. And if I use the kill rotation, just like that. So yeah, it really is not perfect. Okay, let's time warp till apoapse is here. And then we'll circularize our orbit. We can actually stage this. Oh, Jesus, it flew off quite aggressively. I mean, could probably set it to slightly less aggression with our next launch. Solar panels. Before I forgot, yes, please. Okay, and let's circularize here. Okay, good enough. We don't need a very precise orbit. It is actually already in a perfect orbit. God damn it, that took way less time than I thought. We're left with like 2,000 meters per second of delta V. Which means after its mission around Kerbin finishes, I think there's like a chance that it could actually fly towards Mun and do that. As always, fun language, 33 cases in Santa Claus hometown. Yeah, I guess. Haven't learned, don't know much about it, but I guess so. And look at that, we're getting a lot of data from all of these different biomes, which is absolutely incredible. Love to see it. So we're left with like 2,000 meters per second of delta V, and out of pure curiosity, if I were to aim at Mun, let's just set it as target, and if I were to make a burn somewhere here, like that, not so hard. I mean, like what's her apoapsis here? Okay, if I were to move, damn it, stop being an annoyance. Okay, let's move it like this a little bit and move it somewhat more prograde. I'm just trying to kind of line it up and see if I were to go to Mun, what will be my orbits after that? Because, like, I want to see if I can actually transfer this satellite to Mun after I finish the exploration here. Just kind of curious about that. God damn it, can you please not be extremely annoying? Okay, and look at that. We can set an orbit. And it will be a polar-ish. I'm guessing if I were to, like, somewhat correct these maneuvers, I could probably get it to become a polar orbit. Yeah, it's definitely possible. Okay. And it will take us about 800 meters per second, which is definitely enough to capture and correct the orbit. I've heard there's a coding language made fully in Finnish, literally final boss of real life. No, it's not. It's just wrong. I'm sorry, but there are significantly more complex coding languages. I'm a bit of a expert on those myself, so yeah. There are a lot more complicated ones. So anyway, as you can see, our transmission speed here is kind of abysmal, actually, because our connection to the Bumblebee 4 is actually only 46%. Because even though it does have a very powerful antenna, antennas on our spacecraft are kind of... So yeah, the connection speed is not very high, but I mean, it doesn't really matter how long it'll take to send that signs off, because it'll be a long time anyway. And with that out of the way, let's just launch another polar satellite. More polar satellites. Let's launch another one, and that one's just going to be a high orbit one. Buy one, get two polar satellites. I think that's a good deal. I'd take it. Alright, let's configure that one. I'm actually kind of tempted to give the next one even more Delta V. So you could like go to Mon and then to Minmus, something like that. But I think it's a little overkill. We can send a special one to Minmus, because Minmus is a bit annoying to intercept with from a polar orbit. Okay, configure and manned experiments. Let's set this to sight. So might is, we're looking at magnetic fields in ionosphere. That's why we're flying space low. And which is like above stratosphere, so there's like barely any friction, but there's still some molecules, and we're looking at magnetic fields there to study it. And the other one is sight, which measures dust through the vacuum as we fly through other biomes. When I hear English or write talk, I feel so scared to make a mistake, like on an exam. I mean, why? Alright, and as you can see, the sight here is actually a lot more interesting, because this experiment takes a lot longer to complete. It takes like 1 hour, and it generates a lot more data. So, we actually kind of do care about our upload speed here. So, previously I was like, do we really need an antenna? Now I'm like, yeah, we kind of do need an antenna. Yeah. It's just kind of... There are like two ways we could do this. We could either set it into a high orbit, so it's just going to be physically close to the bumblebees. But the problem is, like, it still won't be able to aim at them, because they don't have omnidirectional antennas. That's just so annoying. So yeah, we will definitely want a specialized antenna for this one. Just kind of aim at the bumblebees. I'm just gonna put one of these small boys right here. And I'm gonna aim it at just one of the bumblebees. Doesn't really matter at which one. Oh, I can't do it for now. Yeah, so I'll just aim it at one of the bumblebees, and it won't have 100% uptime, but it's good enough. We'll be able to control through these, and the upload itself will be done through the primary antenna here. which is good enough for me. Okay, let's also combine the staging here. And yeah, let's go launch this one. This bad boy. Actually, can we just put 3 of these here? Just for that stability, so I can just pop the stage pretty much instantly. And actually, you know what? Let's angle this one. Let's angle, because it is going into higher orbit, which for some reason means to myself that we need more delta V, even though we kind of don't, because it already has an obscene amount of delta V, but I guess that's some weird PTSD that I have. After the first missions that I did on streams, when I like barely had any fuel left at the end of them, I do have a little bit of a PTSD for extra fuel. All right, let's launch it. Let's go for launch. Actually, I should not have staged the towers there with the booster, because it was angled this time, but yeah, you know, whatever. All right, let's set it to surface. I'm just gonna set it to slightly more yaw here. Just gonna correct it, and off we go with our launch. Actually, for some reason, if you look at the staging, there's like this purple light. That usually means that the staging is locked. And I actually found out how to lock staging from within the game itself. It's actually very simple. You just have to press super plus L, which is like super lock. Super is the super key in Kerbal Space Program. That's Alt on Mac and Windows. I'm not sure what's on Mac, but for me on Linux, it's right Shift L, which is actually like pretty conveniently placed, if I do say so myself. Actually, the placement there is slightly better, in my opinion. Alright, we'll just keep burning here. Let's actually set it to... Got the surface velocity here, and set it to prograde. Okay, let's pop the housing. Let's extend the solar arrays. And let's punch ourselves into high orbit. Although, oh yeah, I have to set the site running. We could actually sit at low orbit for a little bit. That would be beneficial to just get the site completed in low orbit and then transition to high. What do you think? Yeah, let's do that. And also let's set some Bumblebee, let's say Bumblebee 4 as our primary target for this antenna. And if I am correct in my calculations, this should automatically result in a higher connection speed. And it did. It's now 50-ish kilobytes a second, almost. It's still pointing directly through DSN, towards DSN, so the connection speed is actually not that high. But I will guess when the airfield is not visible, it'll correct itself. Good enough. Everything's fine. Okay, we are kind of in orbit-ish, almost. Let's correct ourselves here a little bit. You know what? I think we should have put slightly more powerful, well, not powerful, just put a bunch more ignitions on the Terrier engine. Because there's a chance we're gonna burn through them. Low, yes, but still a chance nonetheless. Okay, you know what? Let's just make sure that we are in a nice and safe orbit here. Although I think we have completed, we have gathered all of our data. No, we did not. Interesting, interesting. Alright, you know what? Let's just circularize here. Okay. And we are in low orbit. That's good. That's great. Okay, now let's just time warp till our site is completed. in low orbits. Actually, notice as we are passing the poles, every time we pass them, we will take some radiation damage. Like if you zoom in, you can see that it'll get some radiation damage when we pass through the poles, because the radiation fields are stronger there. But it's not that big of a problem. I mean, we do kind of have enough rigidness, if you will, to survive that, for at least for some time. It'll be slightly a bigger problem for Polar Explorer 1, because that guy is just gonna take longer in the slower orbits, so it'll encounter those radiation fields more. But, I mean, it should be sturdy enough that it won't really matter that much. They are powerful in Kerbin, but they're not, like, super deadly. They're not, like, laser-ish. Okay, let's set ourselves into high orbit here. Just gonna make a very aggressive burn. And just get our apoapsis to somewhere like 6 megameters. Seems that's kind of a nice number that we apparently do very much like. Alright, let's just set it to, yep, something like that. And actually still will use MechJap Maneuver Planner because I just want it to auto time warp, which is very nice when it does that for you. Okay, let's set apoapsis to 6,000 kilometers at next apoapsis, create and execute, and that's kind of it. That's all we have to do. And that'll get us into a polar orbit, and there we will start collecting data. By the way, look at that. If we do not have a direct uplink to mission control, we will relay through that Bumblebee 4, which actually gives us a higher upload speed, funnily enough. Okay. Let's start time warping here. As you can see, it gathered a bunch of data and instantly transmitted that, and we already, like, just from this small ascent that we did, we already got, like, a bunch of science, already got, like, 16 credits of science, which is definitely nice. And I mean, right now we're getting science near Kerbin. When we go to Mon, we gotta get even more science from the same experiments. When we go to Minimus, we gotta get even more science from these experiments, which is really, really nice. Okay, let's stage the vehicle here. Look at that thrust to weight ratio. It's like 4, which is a bit overpowered, but I mean, in Kerbal Space Program, you can have engines throttle down as little as 0.00000%, which is very unrealistic, but very nice. So even if you have too high of a thrust to weight ratio, it's not a problem. Alright, so now we do have this satellite chilling in orbit. Let's just make sure our average solar exposure is very nice there. Not that we really care about it, but it's just, I guess it's just nice to have. Alright, and that's kind of it. Let's go check out our other explorer here. Oh, when we send that thing to Minmus, we probably, or to Mon, we definitely are gonna go to Minmus, probably won't have a very strong connection. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem. I mean, I'll probably set one of these bumblebees to use one of its antennas to, like, specifically target that satellite. So we will still have a connection, though the upload speed will probably be la horrible. But let's actually go check how it's doing. I mean, we'll probably end pretty soon here, I think, because this is a Friday stream and I really wasn't planning too much adventures for now, but we'll see how it goes. All right, look at that. So in terms of our data, yeah, we have collected a bunch of information and we're sending it out basically as fast as we can. Though the connection is kind of horrible here. Yeah, the connection is like really not that great. We do have about 1 kilobyte per second, which is fine. It's good enough. I mean, we don't have to send a lot of data. The problem is that this experiment, there are some regions around Kerbin which are like very small geographically. There's like this weird place in Tundra, I think, which is like really small and it's just hard. When you're in a polar orbit, it's just hard to intercept. And even if you do intercept it, because we're in a low orbit and we're moving really fast, we'll just fly past it like and not collect all of the signs. Yeah, the Tundra itself is like has zero completion because it's like small. But yeah, we'll have to wait till all of these complete, and once they have completed, we'll also have to send all of that information. But I mean, we have to collect it, but once we have collected it, we can start going straight to Mun. Because I mean, why not? We have already collected our signs, we can just go to our next destination. Alright, and I mean, we could send the 2 other probes to Minmus, though I think it's beneficial to send just 1 probe. The reason for that is this is going to be easier, just 1 launch. We'll have 2 modules there, and we'll first put it in a low orbit, collect all of the information, then put it in a high orbit, and then also collect all of the information. What is my favorite game? You don't play others so much as KSP. I have way more hours in War Thunder than I do in KSP because I kind of like that game. But it's like, you know, with War Thunder, it's more of a... I just don't want to comment on it. I do play War Thunder a little. I do absolutely love Subnautica. Like, I play through that game a lot. Like, I have returned to it many times. Even though I've already played through it like 100 times, but I played it over and over again because I just really like it. It just really gives that feeling of uncertainty, which I actually kind of like. It definitely has like an interesting aspect to it. Funnily enough, as soon as I started talking about Subnautica, we've hit the most amount of concurrent viewers on the stream so far. Maybe I should transition to Subnautica. Probably took the wrong game. Okay, let's rotate the spacecraft here. Funnily enough, yeah, we don't have like a lot of battery capacity. Okay, you know what? Let's create the 3rd satellite and launch it straight towards Minmus, and get all of the polar information from there. And that's gonna be our probe missions for this time. Again, I'm just gonna name it the 3rd modification because it's gonna be pretty much the same satellite with minor modifications, which is always great. It's very good when your vehicles are similar to each other because you spend less time designing, more time flying, which is always really cool to see. Okay, so it's gonna be pretty much the same thing. It's just gonna have like another probe here, just like that. I don't need all of the data capacity on that one. Actually, you know what? Let's put all of the data capacity because we just... How costly is it? It's actually pretty expensive. You know what? We already have enough storage capacity as it is. I mean, it's good enough. Configure unmanned experiments. We're gonna put this one to might. Okay, so this one is might and it started. This one is sight and it is started. And let's make this one silver for no reason at all. So like I said, I do want to punch a few antennas there. like really long range antennas. You could actually put like a really powerful antenna there, not because like we really needs a powerful antenna, but because we could just later use it as a very nice way. We could just use it as a relay satellite after it has finished its primary mission. And for that reason, because we're also going to be near Minmus, I want to put more batteries here. The reason for that is just going to require more electricity. Because we're going to have bigger batteries. We're also going to double ourselves as a relay satellite. So we're just going to put a bunch of these. Maybe a few more, not that much more. Okay, let's put 2 here, 2 here. Just like that. You know what? We can just not bother and just like slap a bunch of these. Just like that. And also put a bunch of these smaller antennas here for slightly more accurate control. You know what? We could actually double this mission as a long-range relay satellite. We could just punch a bunch of these bad boys. Because they're not actually that heavy. They're big, yes, but they're not heavy. So we could actually just kind of do like that. And it could also double down as a long-range relay satellite, which is gonna be so cool. Yeah, I absolutely love this idea. This sounds absolutely incredible. Great. Let's do that. But that means that it is practically a new design. And you know what a new design needs? It needs a new name. War Thunder is literally a simulation of getting PTSD and shooting every bush and rock, but I love it too. Correct. I do play air though. I don't play ground. Well, I do play ground a little bit, but like, I do play ground just because I want to get into an aircraft and just bully everyone on the ground. That's why I play ground. Just to get into an aircraft in ground orbit. Yes, I am a very horrible person. Sue me. Alright, so yeah, we're gonna launch this one to Minmus. It's gonna have a long-range antenna aimed at mission control. It's also gonna have a bunch of these short-range antennas, because I'm not gonna make the stupid mistake of not placing them at all, as we have already found out that it's a bad idea. I'm actually gonna put 4 of them, like that, just so that if I have a very powerful satellite, it will be able to connect to this satellite, even if this satellite is not pointing its antenna at the other guy, something like that. Alright, I don't like that these antennas somewhat clip into the vehicle. That's a little annoying, but it's good enough. Alright, damn it. Let's make the fairing. Okay, this is gonna be one fat fairing. It's actually not that fat, but still fatter than usual. God damn it, can you like not be bad? Let's make it orange style because we can. Well, we almost can because the lower booster doesn't have texture coloring on it, which is annoying for no real reason other than to just annoy me. Okay, let's put these here. Actually, you know what? Because I want all of the Delta V, I'll just put a bigger engine there. Not an engine, just bigger fuel tank. I'm gonna buy a fuel tank specifically for this mission because I can just afford it. I'm gonna buy it because I have a lot of money. And I'm gonna show off with all of this money that I have. Because that's what you do with money if you have lots of it. You show off. By the way, we actually have to rotate it because we're not actually going to a polar orbit for now. We're actually going to a to an equatorial orbit of Kerbin in the beginning. We'll get to the polar orbits of Minmus later. Actually, you know what? I mean, if you watch Dollar Plays, that guy has a unique skill of making warships look kind of interesting. I mean, it's actually surprising. All right, what's the magic name that you spelled out? The other name? Have you not deleted it? Polar circle. Yeah, let's. I'm just gonna copy paste that. It's just gonna be. All right. Damn it. Can I like spell things correctly? I mean, not on this keyboard. No, I can't. But like in general, that would be nice to have. All right. So we do have a bunch of these short-range antennas. We have a powerful antenna. We have our probe set up. We do have these stupidly long-range antennas, which is very nice. Thank you very much. You know what? I'm actually gonna build the fairing slightly more aggressively here because I really don't want anything to interfere because those antennas are pretty damn big and pretty damn expensive. And I really... Well, actually, no, they're not expensive. They're expensive in that the spacecraft to launch them is expensive, and I just want to have like extra stability around them. Alright, actually planes were born in One Thunder and get until late 1940s planes. Yeah, that's why you buy premiums. That's how they earn money. Surprise, surprise, they do it intentionally. Alright, yeah, you know what, let's go for it. Let's launch this beast. Everything's looking really well, actually. It's actually pretty good. By the way, what's our shadow time around Minmus? Okay, how much are we going to be in shadow if we are in... Oh my god, shadow time is 5 hours there. Oh, it's landed, Jesus Christ. Okay, in low orbit it's 15 minutes, in high orbit it's 23 minutes. Which is actually below our 20-minute duration, but that's if we're transmitting data. Most of the time, our antennas are not going to be powered. Alright, let's launch this bad boy. We're gonna get, after Leopard 1, War Thunder without a premium. Only reason I stopped playing. Yeah, it's kind of hard, especially if you want to research like multiple tech trees. But the thing is, like, people do buy that stuff because War Thunder is extremely addictive. They really know what they're doing. Like, I hate it, but they know what they're doing, and I know why it works. So there's that. Alright, let's launch this bad boy. Okay, engine, start. That thing, start. Actually, I should have bought engine upgrades, especially for the last stage, because it will have a lot of ignition cycles. Regret. You know what? We'll have to plow through it. Okay, let's... Ah! Damn it! That was a mistake. Okay. That maneuver cost us our sanity. Damn it, why am I so damn inefficient here? Okay. Oh, look at that! The engine failed. The Terrier liquid engine failed. God damn it. That's why you buy upgrades. Yeah, I mean, that's a mission. Dead. Like, it's done. It's gone. We can't even repair it. Yeah, like, that's... We can just crash the mission. I mean, it's donezo. Why do you need multiple tech trees in War Thunder if you have Germans almost all cool-looking tanks? I'm not talking about tanks. I'm talking about planes. Because planes, you really do need multiple tech trees. So like I was saying, look at that. Once I've deployed the fairings, even though we do have stabilizers on this vehicle, the drag from all of these batteries, solar panels, and everything, it creates more of a stabilizing moment than these actual fins do. And that's the reason why you really need a payload fairing. I'm actually starting to wonder if we can try to save the satellites. No, we cannot. No, we cannot. Scratch that. Okay, let's just wait till it crashes. Ba-bam. Okay, like I said, it failed, yes, but we're not gonna revert because that's just life. Especially since it wasn't a manned mission. Planes only American. Why? Just why? Alright. You know what? Let's stop talking about War Thunder. It's kind of... That's a sad topic. Alright, we're back here, and yeah, let me buy those nice little upgrades. I actually really want to buy... First of all, I want to put the ant engine here. It's not going to have a very high thrust to weight ratio of only 0.14. But it'll give us some extra delta V, which is important. And I mean, around Minimus, we definitely don't need a lot of delta V. We don't need a lot of delta V. We don't need a lot of thrust to weight ratio. The primary stage here with the Terrier will give us 3,000 meters per second, which is definitely enough getting to Minimus. Except that we really need that engine quality upgrades. And also let's get it for the ant engine there, because I really don't want them to fail. And while we're at it, I don't want the mission to fail the second time, so we'll also buy the high engine quality for the booster, even though that's usually a waste of money if you place these stability enhancers and you stage them correctly. But I just really don't want the mission to go to hell the second time, because that's going to be annoying. Okay, Subnautica Below Zero. Do you think it was a good or bad example of a sequel? Like, you specifically don't want to talk about KSP, am I correct? Like, we want to talk about anything but the game we're, like, actually streaming. Funny. No, I mean, I understand why you're doing this. And we're kind of at this, like, boring stage. But I mean, you are the viewer, so we're talking about what you want, technically. Except War Thunder. That thing's banned. Alright, let's start the engine here. Let's get our vehicle going. I will take a relatively low-ish ascent profile because our vehicle is quite aerodynamic as long as we can actually maintain the fairing. That way it won't topple over. So anyway, Subnautica Below Zero. I think, look at that. I think it's an example of a good sequel because I liked the game. Alright? I liked the game very much. It wasn't a really good game. The problem is that the original Subnautica was so good that even though the sequel as a game in itself is actually pretty decent, like it's a good game, it's interesting, it's exciting, it landed shorter than the original game, not because it's like bad per se, but because the original was just so good. That's my take on Subnautica Below Zero. I think it's a good game. It's worse than the original because the original was like, mwah. But it's still pretty damn good. And actually, you know what, with the plot, I mean, okay, spoiler alert, there will be spoilers for Subnautica Below Zero right now. So if you haven't played it, shoo. Go play it, actually. You know what? If you haven't played it, shame on you. Go play it. So anyway, we're actually kind of struggling here to get into orbit, which is a little annoying. we're basically flying straight here. Because I took way too shallow of an ascent profile. Actually, you know what? Let's try to correct for that as hard as we can. Although I think this launch kind of failed already. Because I took way too low of an ascent profile. Hopefully, I can just kind of push myself into higher orbits. Although I will probably... Yeah, this is a little annoying. So anyway, Subnautica Below Zero, definitely a nice game. And spoiler alert again. But the ending for me was absolutely insane. So that scene when they like actually go to this like new dimension, well, not new dimensions, like, but in general, when they go through the portal, that moment by itself was absolutely incredible to me. And it really gave that like feeling of achievement, of like the story. It wasn't the end of a story, no. It was like sort of a beginning of a new one. Oh, look at that, our fins are burning up, which is actually probably not a very bad thing. But boy, how much Delta V have we lost to drag here already? Can I see my ascent stats? 500 meters per second of Delta V lost to drag because we took way too shallow of an ascent profile. You know what? You know what? Scratch this mission. I don't like it. I don't want to play it. I want to just abort the mission entirely here. Because I just can't be bothered. Okay, can we automatically burn it down? Can I get to like 12 times physics time warp and just burn it down? Because I want to take a proper ascent profile, because I took that extra fuel and then I just wasted all of it, which is like really dumb. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So anyway, it just gave me that feeling of satisfaction when I like saw the ending. It wasn't the end of the story as a whole. I instantly knew that they set a major continuation for Subnautica 3. But it like really felt like a good, stable platform. Like after you climb that plot, you really have that like moment to just sit there and like, oh my god, that's so cool. You really do have that moment of satisfaction there. Which is always very nice to see. Actually, you know what? Because our satellite here is actually getting pretty damn expensive, I'm gonna buy the cool winglets here. Because again, I can, and because I wanna not fail at least the third mission. Like, can we get like at least one mission successfully? Thank you very much. And I'm actually gonna add a few of these additional boosters. Just to kind of increase my Delta V in the beginning. Because I just can do that, so I will do that. Although I will probably set them to slightly lower thrust limits, because it's just way too aggressive in the beginning. Or rather, it's like in general, it's actually like 2.5, which is kind of a lot. Yeah, I want to keep that slightly lower. I think 2.0 is like good enough. Alright. Let's launch it. I think that cliffhanger of going to Architecture's Worlds is a bad idea. No, they showed it very good, but it didn't continue in Subnautica 2. If you want the trailer. I don't know. Like, again, if you're asking me... like, it really depends on, like, what your goal for that game was. If their goal was to just show an interesting like game in itself, then they did a stellar job in my opinion. If their goal was like to make like sequel for another sequel and so on and so forth, then maybe they could have done it better, but still good enough in my opinion. Alright, I have used a little bit of autostruts there to help stabilize this vehicle a little further. And we are going to continue climbing here. As you can see, our thrust to weight ratio is here reaching 5, which is suboptimal. And I'm really glad that I kind of staged these boosters a little bit, which should help to separate it a little bit, which is definitely great. I don't know. I personally really liked it. Like, I liked the ending of that stage. It was satisfying. What I didn't like I liked it as a continuation of the story. It's like, it's good enough for me. What I didn't like is that they kind of focused on way too many annoying caves. Like, that's just... they had both caves and ground. It was just so riddled with these mazes. And I mean, at some point I've spent literally 3 hours running around in Tundra because I started land exploration first. So I didn't have, like, anything. And I was just running around trying to collect all of the everything. There, just trying to research stuff. I was trying to explore. And I was trying to find these worms, but the problem is, like, I was running with basically a bunch of titanium and the builder, and I was, like, building these small bases to not freeze up. And that's the way I was, like, surviving there, which was really dumb, and I wasted a lot of time. And the problem is I was running around so much because I couldn't find the exit, or really any way to progress, because it's just way too many mazes. And as soon as you dive down, you still get tons of these small spaces, and you kind of have to maneuver through that. And look, we already had that in Subnautica 1. I mean, there were enough caves already. In the base Subnautica, I was already at times a little annoyed that I don't know where to go, especially like the Lost River. If you're not playing with like map mods and everything, you already have like some trouble finding all of the entrances and everything. It's already like you're starting to consider that it might be a little too much, but then they just go ahead with the big game, the continuation, and they just say, what was the most annoying thing in Subnautica that you have encountered? Oh, it's when I don't know where to go to progress. Great, let's just amplify that tenfold. That was just so annoying. Just like I literally had to spend most of my time just going through these mazes rather than like feeding through the story, rather than just enjoying myself. And I mean, Subnautica 1 was a cool game because they really managed to convey that feeling of existential terror, of like the terror of big water and everything. And Subnautica 2 was like, you know, let's crash that. We're like doing the opposite here. So like, we're just gonna do the exact opposite because we can. Haha. I mean, we still did like an interesting game, and I liked it, and I liked the plot. It's just annoying, and it was like annoying for no real reason. Like, they haven't used those caves for much other than like I never even felt anything from that. I mean, oh boy, there also was this like music in these like chips that you find, and you had to get those chips from like some wreckages. And I mean, swimming through wreckage in the original Subnautica was a little annoying. Swimming through wreckages in Subnautica 2 was like literally an order of magnitude more annoying. Again, what for? It's like you just wanted to make the game harder to just kind of make the satisfaction of progression better. Like, I understand that such games like Subnautica, if you want to give players the ability to spend like 200 hours in the game, it's kind of hard. Because you can't do like a lot of these plots, and you have to focus on these like stupid little mechanics to just kind of delay the progress just so that they won't burn through the game in 2 hours. And I get that. The problem is that in this particular case, it wasn't like if they just hid away those music chips in those wreckages, and it's really hard to find those, but the rest of the main story you can like easily progress, then great. You'll progress through the main story, you'll get that plot, you'll get that satisfaction, you'll get that like, nice, great. And then you can go ahead, find all those little things, find those side stories that they've made, all of that stuff. Then go ahead and do that. Like, you can just do it then. Like, there's no real need to add that delays to the main story. Alright, so I have set our aggregator to create a maneuver node to minmiss here, and we'll be using MagJeb to execute that node. I'm gonna press one button to execute node, and it'll do everything for me, which is very, very nice. I mean, funnily enough, people are kind of connecting to the stream. Not a lot of people are watching for a very long time, but they are kind of sticking around a little bit, leaving likes, which is nice. I'm sorry, but I need to go to sleep, or 11:30 again. So my last question, have you tried KOS? I tried, but that was too much even for me, even though I major in computer science and programming and scripting and all of that. That's like my major, and even then it was like a little too much for me. Although I did try when I was like generally not that good in KSP, and also I didn't play KSP that much. I might give it another go now. I think right now I definitely have a lot more knowledge in computer science, scripting, and all of that, and I definitely have more of a will to play KSP and to do interesting stuff with it, so maybe I'll actually revisit it. Okay, that answers your question, hopefully, and thank you for sticking for the entire stream. That's like really, really cool that you were here for like the entire stream. Like, I really appreciate it, so have a nice sleep. Alright, so we gotta continue with this mission. Our MagJab will finish this maneuver very nicely. It unfortunately did not actually get us into orbit because even though we do have a decent thrust... Oh no, there were like 2 maneuvers. Oh, look at that. It created 2 maneuvers. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. Oh, because it created one maneuver to set us towards minmiss, and it created the other maneuver to set the correct plane, and to, in general, just do the approach. Alright, so we can just use this execute next node thing, just kind of execute multiple nodes at the same time. That's kind of... It's annoying when it does that when you just have like a single node, because, well, rather when you want to execute maneuvers yourself, Astrogator will create 2 maneuver nodes, and then it's kind of annoying because you're like, damn it, just create one, and I'll correct it once I get to minmiss because it's just easier there. But when you're using MagJab, when you just need to press that one button and it automatically will do everything for you, in that case, it's actually kind of alright to perform those maneuvers automatically, as I like to say. Alright, let's just make sure that all of our antennas are kind of set up. So this antenna will point at mission control, I'll actually have another antenna also point at mission control. I just want to check our connection speed and strength. Look at that beast. Absolutely insanely powerful. I'm just gonna pop 2 of those, deploy them, and I just want to see the electric consumption here. Show me the electric consumption. Oh, look at that. Our consumption on comms idle is about 3 per second, which is fine. But it's also that we're sending a lot of data. Look at that. Once we've stopped, it's actually like, well, I mean, it's 3 per idle. We do have some experiments still running here. But it's good enough. Alright, so yeah, we'll just, I guess we'll just time warp to Minmus. Although I am somewhat tempted to make just this another maneuver, just to put ourselves into polar orbits already, because we can just do that. Alright, so let's select that maneuver. Let's go here, let's just put ourselves into a polar orbit already. I'm just gonna do like that, and that's gonna be a polar orbit-ish. Too little of a polar orbit? Yeah, that's good enough. Alright, and how do I set tolerance? Oh, tolerance 1/100th of a meter per second, which is definitely fine. Let's just press execute node. It'll do everything automatically. Very nice, very cool. Damn, these antennas look kind of cool. Not gonna lie, they are kind of impressive. Alright, so as you can see, during this stream we have launched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 satellites. And I mean, we could have launched 2 more to 1, like polar ones. But like I said, we probably will have our Polar Explorers 1 and 2 just transition to mine. And like I said, we could have had both of those explorers originally, like we could have combined them into a single vehicle, and we could have rotated around low orbit Kerbin, low orbits, well, or rather, first low, then high orbit around Kerbin, then transition to Mon, then from Mon we could go to Minmus, but that's just going to take a lot of time. Like in-game time, which is why I'll combine the vessel for Minmus and also double it as a long-range relay. But for mine, let's not overcomplicate it. All right, so let's time warp to Minmus encounter here. Oh, look at that! We lost connection to our polar circle here. Because, oh, look at that. It does have, like, connection to mission control, but because these bumblebees, they're aimed at mission control, they don't actually have, the ability to connect to the polar circle here, unless it's, like, directly in front of Kerbin. And right now it's, like, actually sending the connection to one of our polar explorers, and then to Bumblebee, and then back to mission control. Alright, since we do have a connection now, I don't really use this antenna, because for mission control, I have 2 of the other antennas, so I can just aim it at one of the Bumblebees. Like, any one of them. For example, Bumblebee 1, which is, coincidentally, the one that I wanted to connect to. And yeah, that should provide us with a connection, Oh, actually, no, we do have to switch to Bumblebee 1. And like I said, because Bumblebees, unfortunately, I did not put omnidirectional antennas there. So even if you have like an extremely powerful antenna, unless the Bumblebee is looking at you, you're not going to get a signal. That's not much of a problem. And actually, you know what? I'm going to put one of these antennas to specifically target our polar circler there, activate it, and I'll also put one of the antennas to specifically target the active vessel, which is whatever vessel that is active currently, which is going to be very nice. And I probably should do that with the other satellites, and we're already using like 5 out of 6 of our like short air range antennas. But look at that. As soon as I've said that, we have created a connection to our polar circle. And actually, if we switch to the polar circular, we probably can turn off the powerful antenna and it'll still be able to connect. I just want to test that. Look, if we deactivate this antenna, we still won't lose the connection. The connection is not going to be very powerful, but it will still be able to connect to Bumblebee 1 through the omnidirectional antenna, because Bumblebee 1 is looking at it with a decently powerful antenna, and it's also not that far away. And look at that. Coincidentally, Bumblebee 4 does have a connection to our polar circle, because it is looking at Bumblebee 1. So you will always have a little bit of like crossfire. But that's fine. Okay, let's activate this antenna and let's... I mean, because this is a rather wide-angle antenna, we can actually simplify this a little bit. We just aim it at Kerbin. And because it's going to be so far, it's going to be near Minmus, it will still have, like, with the... Even though it does have a relatively narrow angle, like, look at that, the angle is relatively narrow, it'll still be able to connect to all of the satellites here, I think. Look at that. Maybe not, actually, but most of the time, it'll be able to connect to them. Actually, you know what? We're losing signal pretty often there. Not entirely sure why. That's kind of annoying. So it says here that our polar circle right now, it doesn't have a connection. Why not? I mean, oh, because Bumblebee 1 is not in view. You know what? Let's go to the other Bumblebees and just set all of them to use one of their antennas to point specifically at our Minimus polar orbiter. Because they just can. And I mean, since that thing doubles down as a long-range satellite, we can do that because that was the original purpose of these antennas. And as soon as we activate them, we have restored the connection. You know what? Let's just walk through all of the other Bumblebees and do that as well. And we could also set the antennas to track, one antenna to track current vessel, just so it's going to be slightly better. Okay, one antenna to active vessel, one antenna to that polar circler. All right, that's good enough. Okay, and let's also switch to Bumblebee 4 and do that as well. I still get these weird messages that someone lost control with someone for some reason, even though nobody lost the connection. A little annoying, but it is what it is, I guess. All right, let's aim this one at circle, activate it as well, and we have still one unused antenna, which we will use later. Alright, so that's it with antenna configuration. Yeah, let's switch to our polar circular here. And actually, coincidentally, because it's going to be near Minmus, these guys will also provide coverage near Minmus in general. Like, not only will they be able to provide coverage for the polar circular, but to Minmus in general, which is nice. And, I mean, if you look at the angle for this specific antenna that we have, it will probably cover most of Kerbin. Maybe not all of those satellites, but still pretty decent. And, I mean, we're still having sometimes these small blackouts, which is a little annoying. Yeah, unfortunately, we're still having these tiny... I wonder why. Let's go to that thing. I'm just curious, why doesn't it have a connection? Like, it should. I mean, it is in a polar orbit. Oh, you know what? Because it's only connected to one of the satellites. Or rather, only one of the satellites is looking at it. Like, only Bumblebee 4 is looking at it. But now that I switch to it, it suddenly has a connection. That's a little weird. Okay, you know what? Let's time warp here a little bit. I just want to see what happens. When does it lose the connection? Maybe when it just goes a little too high. That's when. Not entirely sure when that happens. Okay, you know what? These are temporary missions, so I'm not too concerned if they sometimes lose signal for a little bit. That's not that big of an issue. Obviously, I would prefer if they, like, never lost connection. But for now, it's fine. This is good enough. This is definitely not a perfect relay network, but the more satellites we will launch, the more sturdier our network will slowly become. Alright. Let's continue time warping here. I'm just gonna try to time warp to that there. And yeah, it unfortunately will stop me all the time. Can I set those guys to just not alert me at all? Unfortunately, I cannot. Like, somehow magically, I can't set the notifications to just not alert me when I lose connection. Even if I go, I'm not sure. Like, if I go to Kerbalism, can I set, like, yeah, do not notify me of signal loss? That's not very important. I have this weird feeling that it'll still notify me for no apparent reason, but yeah, it still notifies me, because why wouldn't it? I mean, it's not like I specifically set it not to do that. I think this is a bit of a bug. We might have to later just edit some config files or something like that to correct that. Alright, so now Minmus should ram into us, and we should near the periapsis here. I'm really hoping that we will have connection at least when we're near periapsis. But like I said, since we do have these really powerful antennas, we can just point some of the antennas if we really have to. Plus we should, because it is our current active vessel, we should have connection from all of the bumblebees. Like, they should all look at us because we're the active vessel. At least that's the theory. Alright, let's set ourselves to retrogrades and put ourselves in a low orbit. Okay. Gonna retro burn here a little bit. Just a low orbit. I'm actually with Minmus, because it does have, like, a lot of mountains, I don't want to go too low, and for that reason, I'll just try to set it so that my apoapsis and periapsis are, like, slightly higher than usual. Like that. I mean, I want to put both of them to, like, 10,000 meters, somewhat. Not the most efficient maneuver that I'm doing here, but it'll do the trick in terms of just making sure that that I won't ram into a mountain or something like that. Alright, that looks good enough. Okay, 10 kilometers is definitely above what we want. Let's just set to execute node, and it'll automatically do everything for us, which is very, very nice. And let's just check that the experiment is running. And would you look at that? Our set experiment is running, which is really great. For some reason, it says that might is not running. Invalid situation. What is invalid about it? I wonder. Info, invalid situation. Why would that be? I'm not entirely sure what is going on. What are the requirements for it? Can we show some info? Okay, so it should be space low, space high. But oh, it's bodies allowed atmospheric. Jesus Christ, I completely forgot about that. That only one of them can run on. Yeah, only one of them can run without atmosphere. The other one requires some atmosphere to run, which is a little annoying. So our lower orbiter will actually not go to Mun. But that's actually a good thing because that's the one orbiter that actually does not have a lot of fuel, which I guess is great. That's well, that's sad news, but I do see some positivity in it. Let's say it like that. But the other experiment definitely should be running, and it is. It is generating data. It's just that while it is generating data, yes, it's instantly sent back to Kerbin, and because we have such a fast connection speed, we're actually not really gathering any data. Well, I mean, we're gathering, it's just we're sending it faster than we're generating it, which is why we can't see it here, which was a little suspicious when I first saw it. That's why I'm explaining. Hi, I could have been late for 2 hours. Something is wrong with me. I mean, time zones maybe? That could be the thing. But I mean, this is a Friday stream. It's like, it's not very serious. Usually the primary streams that I make are during Saturday, Sunday, like weekends. That's when I do the main streams. This one is a bit of a relaxed stream, slightly more talking about other games, slightly more yapping about life in general. And I specifically took setting up all of these satellites because it just takes some time and you have to set it up and you can just kind of talk about other things while you do so. And as you can see, we are transmitting a bunch of signs here from this one. Like I said, site, we're currently running Minmus space low, which will generate us 12 value points. And then once we have actually completed all of that, we'll transfer to higher orbit. Funnily enough, if you'll notice, it has only collected 1 R&D, but we have sent 45 credits. Where does that come from? Well, because while we were transferring to Minmus, we have actually collected a bunch of data around the equator, I think, of Kerbin. Yeah, while we were going there. Satellites are the most boring stuff in KSP. Yeah, they kind of are, which is why I like specifically reserved them for a Friday stream. This stream is interesting for people who want to know about remote tech and how to satellite all of those relay networks and everything. But for most people, they're kind of boring, and that's why I didn't put them on like Saturday, Sunday stream. I just want to get rid of that, mostly, and do the rest when like there's actually more interesting stuff. So look at that. For some reason, it like says here that I don't have a connection, even though I kind of do. I don't know why. It like I do have the connection towards Bumblebee 2 that has to Bumblebee 3, and that one does have a connection to Kerbin. So I don't actually know why is it saying that I don't have a connection right now. I feel like there could be some bug with the mods. I mean, that's a little weird. But I mean, we'll just gather some data. Once we do get a connection, it'll be resolved. I don't really care if it loses the connection for a little bit. Actually, I don't really care if it loses the connection for a long time, as long as it's like not too long. But yeah, for some reason the connection. Oh, look at that! Oh my god, I'm sorry for pressing the map button. I was trying to stop the time warp. Yeah, it actually did get a connection there because it definitely did transfer some of the science there. Oh no, we have completed the contract for network for Kerbin, which is great, and we have completed experimental data from space around Minmus. Good work. Great. Okay. So it apparently did send the data. and we actually did recover it, but for some reason right now it's saying that we don't have a connection, even though we clearly do. I mean, what if I aim... Oh, I can't. I mean, I want to aim one of these antennas specifically at one of the Bumblebee satellites. Hopefully that will allow me to have a more stable connection, question mark. I don't know. I don't know why it does that. Oh, look at that. We now have a connection. Let me see. Max transmission rate. Oh, it's just not very powerful. Yeah, we do have a connection to those satellites. It's just barely capable of connecting to us, even though we do have a pretty damn powerful antenna pointed. We do have an antenna pointed at Kerbin. Maybe it's just not powerful enough. I just wonder which of the antennas we're using. Are we using Kamukantrons here to connect? What's our angle? Do we see all of the satellites? Oh, we actually don't. But I mean, we still should be able to connect to Bumblebee 4 here. I think there's like some bug with pathfinding. How did you know about KSP and what was the hardest mechanic to learn? I'm sorry I took forever to read that in chat. It was just kind of... damn it. Bugs in KSP just kind of always make me concentrate too much. So anyway, I learned about KSP. No clue. I learned a long time ago. And the hardest mechanic to learn... Damn it. I think interplanetary stuff. Specifically, like the Oberth effect, if I pronounced that correctly. Is that the thing? Yes, the Oberth effect. That thing was like the hardest for me to understand, and it still, like, I understand why it works in terms of math. I still can't quite wrap my head around why is it that a thing. Like, it's counterintuitive to me. That's all. All right, so now we do have a connection. Let me just aim one of these big bad antennas, specifically at one of the bumblebees, so that hopefully I'll have a very, very strong connection, not independently of everything. And it still, for some reason, says that the distance is pretty bad. Why does it do that? I feel like... Yeah, there's definitely some bugs. I still don't know how to fly to Minmus. I mean... what do you struggle with? Tell me. I'll try to consult you. Actually, spoiler alert. I am kind of aiming towards monetizing the channel. Primarily because that will just give me an incentive to just make more videos, do more interesting stuff. Not because I need the money, but because I want that to act as additional motivation. And so yeah, I do want that to act as additional motivation. And one of the things that I wanted to do for my Patreon supporters, I just want to have that, you know, like $100 per month tier, which is like this extremely expensive tier that like literally no one's gonna buy. And you just put some weird stuff there, like one-on-one consulting about KSP, something like that. And you just pray to God that some guy with like shitloads of money who has no clue how to play the game will be like, oh, you know, I could really use those, like, purchase. And you're like, yes, you know, whale hunting, basically. It's I study in Higher School of Economics, so I do know a little bit about making a business work. And yeah, you basically sometimes want to just have that one tier, which is so damn premium that literally no one's gonna buy it, yes, but if someone will, then boy will you have a lot of income from that. And I mean, it doesn't really hurt, because what's the worst thing that can happen? They won't buy it. Like if, like in Steam was a game platformer for $80,000. Yeah, kind of like that. I mean, I saw the funniest thing that I've seen on that, I think, was an Amazon listing for a book that costed I think it was like $8,000, something like that, $10,000. I don't remember, but I think it was like 8 as well. And so like it was like $8,000, and the book's name was like How I Made $8,000 Selling Books on Amazon, something like that. It was like that's actually kind of hilarious. Basically, as soon as someone buys that book, you can like that book becomes viable. So if you get that book, it's always viable. It's like really interesting. Like I really like the design. All right, now let's start our engine here. Let's burn into a high elliptical orb, not elliptical actually, just a high orbit. I don't want to go too high. I think like 2,000 meters is good enough. I don't care about accuracy, which is why you don't see me using MechJep right now, because I just can't be bothered. I mean, this is accurate enough for me. Okay. Alright. So let's rotate. Let's wait till apoapsis. Just a little more. Okay, and let's raise our periapsis here. Damn it. That was way too aggressive. Yep, like that. Something like that. Okay, that's good enough. So that will put us in a polar orbit, and we'll just fly over all of the regions, and we'll slowly but surely collect all of the information for a site that we need to. And as you can see, there's a lot to complete. I mean, we've got, well, I mean, this is actually for Kerbin that I'm looking right now. And as you can see, we haven't collected, oh yeah, cold shores. I was referencing earlier that there's like this weird biome, which is like physically very small on Kerbin. So when you're flying in orbit past it, it's like really hard to collect signs from it, because it's just every single time that you pass, you just collect barely any. And even if you collect a decent amount, it's really hard to encounter. That's what I'm trying to say. So in Mammoth, we actually have collected some of it, but not all. Specifically poles, slopes. Yeah, we'll have to collect some of that as well. But it will give us a bunch of science. This one. Although I'm still kind of bothered. Let me just try to save the game here and load it back, because I mean it says right now that it doesn't have a connection to something, but it should, which is like really weird. I'm like bothered by it, even though I only care about the satellite network that I have set up. I still am slightly worried about this. But I mean, as we will get more powerful antennas, we will slowly transition to using more and more powerful antennas that will be in higher and higher orbits. And at some point, yeah, we'll just have like a swarm of satellites that just won't matter. We'll have a connection everywhere just by like brute force and everything. Sad thing when you want to leave empty stream but don't want to leave the streamer alone. I mean, it's fine. Like, if you want to leave, go ahead. I'm like, nah, definitely don't want you to sit here and not enjoy the process. Because, like, it's fine. I know that sometimes I might be alone on the stream. That happens, I know. But I have put myself on the other laptop here. I have myself. So I always have at least one viewer. Yeah, just myself. So yeah. It's like, I'm not gonna be completely alone, but it's fine. If you want to leave, then leave. I definitely don't want you to sit here and just suffer through it. And actually, you know what? I think we might be closing up the stream for today. Like I said, we do have a little bit of science that we'll still have to collect for these missions. Well, not for these missions, through these missions. But the thing is, like, we don't have to sit and monitor it. It'll be just collected slowly in the background. Potentially, we'll have to, like, micromanage it from time to time. But in general, I don't think I'm gonna touch it for now, at least for a little bit. And with that out of the way, I think we can actually end the stream pretty much here. Well, have fun regardless. Yeah. All right. I think we can start thinking a little bit. I just want to say a few things about what to research next. We could actually. I think we should research. There's like two philosophies that we can do. One is to research like advanced exploration, which this line basically, and try to get to scanning tech, which will give us the survey scanner, which is kind of cool. It'll give us laboratory experiments, which is something that I really, really want. And it will also give us this thing, spectrovariometer. I'm okay, fine. Not gonna pronounce that. The thing. That's a really cool one because we will finally do some planes, because I've kind of ignored planes completely because I knew that at some point we're gonna get this thing. It's just better to research it and then start making planes. Otherwise, we'll just have to fly over the entire Kerbin again once we research it, which is a little annoying. And most like temperature readings, pressure readings, they don't give that much science. I mean, it takes like 45 science to get a plane, and then you will get pretty much that from the barometric research. That's it, not more. So it won't really be beneficial like long term. And the stuff that we're gonna get here is like, other than the tail fin, maybe can't really be used in the rest of our space program. So we could go to this line and we could have some planes, which is like definitely exciting, or we could go for unmanned tech and finally have Ascent MagChap, but that's kind of dumb because I mean we're not gonna get more science from this block. So I probably think that we should focus on electrics because that will allow us to finally have the magnetometer boom and the seismic accelerometer, which are both experiments that gonna give us a lot of science. We'll have to do a bunch more missions to Mun, a bunch more missions to Minmus, but that's fine. And we'll also get these really, really powerful antennas here, which is also kind of cool. Because some of these antennas do have like reasonable angles that we can actually go ahead and use them. So yeah, I think I'll cache the science for now, and I'll see on the next stream like if we can get to actually research these. Because if we do, we'll get a lot more science, and then we can start researching towards scanning tech, and basically, from that point, we'll be, like, pretty much golding. Not entirely sure, but we could definitely send a mission to Eve right now. We already have all of the technologies that we need. It's just that I'll see if I can get the magnetometer boom and the seismic accelerometer before I send it to Eve, because if I can send the magnetometer boom to Eve, then I'll get tons of science from that, which will be very important for us to research hydroponics, for example. And once we research those, we can actually go to Eve in a manned mission. So that's the plan for the next episodes. For now, I think it kind of is it. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope that you have enjoyed this lovely stream. And with that, saving the game, that is kind of it. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time tomorrow. And join the Discord, by the way. Do join the Discord, because you have a limited time offer there. So don't miss your chance. Okay, bye.